Can we please hear the story about you having to be life flighted? So when I was 3 years old, I was life flighted at Children's Hospital, and my Amish mother rode with me in the helicopter. And I had a gum rubber stuck up my nose for about 3 days, and nobody knew about it. I was at the singing Sunday night, and one of the kids in the room spring at the singing gave me a piece of gum. It was juicy fruit, and I remember saving the gum rubber so I could smell it later. And that night in my crib, I was about 3.5 years old, but still sleeping in a crib. I pulled it out of my pocket. I remember falling asleep, smelling it, and thinking how good it smelled, you know, that juicy fruit smell. I guess by Tuesday, I was pretty sick. My mom thought it was just a normal cold or whatever. By Wednesday morning, I was almost blue in the face, and she took me to the family doctor. And he sent me with an ambulance to the hospital about in the next town over, you know, probably about 15 minutes away with an ambulance. And then they life flighted me from that hospital to Children's Hospital. I had a severe case of pneumonia. I was in Children's Hospital for a while. I remember snippets of being there. I remember going to the bathroom, probably one of my first experiences using a toilet, to be honest, that I can remember. And my mom had the IV stand, and there was like all these tubes and wires, and this looked so impossible to be able to walk over there. And she convinced me that I could do it, and I remember how proud she was of me when I was able to walk all the way to the bathroom, you know. But I remember thinking, I cannot do this. It felt impossible, but then I was able to do it, you know. But like I said, I was a real little kid. I remember this one nurse, she gave me this coloring book, and she was like, here, look at these pictures. And I don't know how much of the English I understood, but I remember looking at the pictures, and then she jabbed me, she gave me a shot. And I remember thinking she tricked me, you know, and made me think she was being nice, and then she jabbed me with that needle. Well, I remember being wheeled out. My mom was holding me, and she was sitting in the wheelchair. They wheeled me out of the hospital, and all the nurses that I remembered were over there by the nurse station that got to know me. And you know, I was probably a character back then even. They were waving at me, so I waved back to them, all except for that one nurse that tricked me. I remember as I'm waving thinking, I'm not waving to that one nurse over there. You know, I don't know. But then I remember going home. And yeah, it was a scary time, but probably more scary for my mom. I did ask her one time, growing up, I was like, weren't you worried you were going to get shunned riding in a helicopter when we're not supposed to? And she said, you're my son. I wasn't going to leave you alone. And that's how I know my mom loves me, even though she's never, you know, she doesn't usually tell me she loves me. She hasn't ever said that a lot to me. But I've, you know, seen from her actions that she loves me. So yeah, that's the story about how I got life flighted. I don't remember it, by the way. I was in a coma at the time. I was unconscious by that time. And I don't have any recollection of being in that helicopter. God bless you all. Stay safe.